A320, programming Fmgc for arrival. Fmgs programming. Fmgs programming involves inserting navigation data, then performance data. Boxed fields must be filled. Blue fields inform the crew that entry is permitted. Green fields are used for FMS-generated data and cannot be changed. Magenta characters identify limits, altitude, speed, or time that FMS will attempt to meet. Yellow characters indicate a temporary flight plan display. Amber characters signify that the item being displayed is important and requires immediate action. Small font signifies that data is FMS computed, and large font signifies manually entered data. The landing runway, star, and approach should be entered into the flight plan page on MCDU. Sequence the flight plan. Compare the altitude and speed constraints and lateral track and distances with approach charts. Use the scroll key to check the flight plan thoroughly, using the navigation display in plan mode. Tracks and distances between waypoints are displayed on the second line from the top of the MCDU. Check speed and altitude constraints, add new speed or altitude constraints if required, e.g. VAP at the final approach fix. 3 degrees of difference between the MCDU and the charted final lateral track is acceptable for conventional radio NavAid approaches, i.e. LOC, VOR, VOR.DME, NDB, etc. One degree of difference between the MCDU and the charted final lateral track is acceptable for RNAV. .1 degrees of difference between the MCDU and the charted final vertical path is acceptable. In all cases, do not modify the final approach fix to runway or missed approach point, including altitude constraints. Missed approach tracks and distances must be checked from the appropriate navigation charts. Manually tune the VOR/DME and NDB if required. Check ILS ident frequency and associated course of destination airfield as required. It is not recommended manually inserting the ILS identifier as, in case of late runway change, the associated ILS would not be automatically tuned. Insert VOR, DME, or landing runway threshold of destination airfield in the bearing distance field as required. Destination airfield weather, QNH, temperature and wind. The entered wind should be the average wind given by the air traffic control or ATIS. Do not enter gust values. With managed speed mode in approach, ground speed mini function will cope with the gusts. Insert minima, decision height for CAT 2 or 3, MDA for other approaches. Landing configuration, wind shear anticipated or in case of failure. Performance go-around, check thrust reduction and acceleration altitude. Check estimated landing weight, estimated fuel on board and extra fuel. Program secondary flight plan to cover contingencies, e.g. runway change, circling, or diversion. Once the FMGS has been programmed, the pilot monitoring should then cross-check the information prior to the approach briefing.